welcome to FaceHammer TV. It's me, Russ the Face, and I'm joined by Les.
The Nose Martin. I hate it.
You don't hate it, you love it.
hate
You love it.
Yeah.
You could have said Judicator.
I should really, shouldn't I?
Yeah.
Judicator.
Or Liberator.
No.
Stormcrutch.
Stormcrutch. Les Stormcrutch Martin. Never mind.
So, we're here with a battle report from the new General's Handbook. The scenario we're going to play is...
Gifts from Heaven, which is one of the more funky ones out of the book, I think, which is...
Yeah.
It's pretty cool, I think. It's something that we're not used to playing so much in the independent scene and stuff. It's a bit different.
Yeah, so basically the premise is during the game, a meteor's going to hit, and that's your objective, and both players have it in their territory. So there's going to be 2 meteors by the end of battle round 2.
Yeah.
And that's the objective, and they're worth more as the game goes on. But I'm using my Bloodbound, so not a particularly, what I'd say, competitive list. I've tried to take, what I've played with before, and something that looks nice, and also try and use the command traits and the allegiance ability, and that's the best I can.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's basically the premise.
I'm taking my standard Stormcast army. Stormcrutch Eternals. I've not, again, like Russ said, I've not sort of meted the list. I'm not taking as many Judicators, just because it's not so much fun for it to show. We're more showing how the scenario works than me backing off from Russ and shooting him for 4 turns. So there's a few other different bits and bobs in the list that I wouldn't normally take. And yeah, it's just we're just going to see
get the excuse in early.
Getting it in early for when he beats me.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we're just going to see how it plays out and sort of like give the mission a once over.
Yep. So let's get to it.
Hello, this is Liam Cook, and I'm with
Pano, Mr. Reality Blade himself.
Yeah, and we're going to just be commentating on the battle report on FaceHammer TV. Les is Stormcast versus Russ's Bloodbound. As you can see at the moment, Les is putting down most of his army.
It's a nice Stormcast deployment there. I like it. Strong.
Yeah, Celestant Prime in the sky, Skyborn Slayers in the sky, done. I think he does put some models eventually on.
No, actual Stormcast on the table.
Yeah.
This is a treat.
I doubt we'll be surprised what he puts on the table.
Well, I'm hoping no, there it is. It's the Judicators.
Straight on with the pew pew.
Well done, Mr. Martin, every time.
He can't stay away. Russ has put down some Juggernauts, which I think are battle line his list.
If I'm reading his list right, then the Mighty Lord of Khorne's going to make those battle line along with the Blood Warriors he's just put down.
It's a beautiful little battle line there. Just going to stop the recording there for a second and just have a look at the model Les has put next to the building.
That's a Lord Relictor?
It is indeed a Lord Relictor, yeah.
Lesser spotted Lord Relictor.
Never seen on a competitive Warhammer table. For a long time, I don't think, since the starter box.
Well, I don't know. We saw a couple of them when that awful formation popped out in the God Beast book. That was a bit filthy, really.
Yeah, I don't think that was allowed anywhere.
Yeah.
Not if you wanted to make friends. But no, the Lord Relictor, absolutely fantastic model to use under the General's Handbook. 80 points, which is a steal for any character. And it's got that wonderful lightning attack, which not only heals your characters if you want to, but if it does any damage, it makes it -1 to hit.
No.
Yeah, which is maybe not so brilliant against Khorne, but kind of Hunters got to be shaking in their
-1 to hit. Suddenly, all those Blood Reavers hitting on 5s. That's nasty, mate.
Yeah, just a nice little buff there, or debuff rather, to the enemy's army, which is absolutely fantastic. We've got more Blood Warriors being put down for Russ there. And how do you find?
They're just a good battle line, mate. They are, in my opinion, one of the best core in the game.
Yeah. Night Venator down there for Les, and that's his deployment finished. I think Russ is just getting there.
Yeah, to be fair, to Les, that looks like an army, mate. He's actually deployed what looks like a mini army.
Almost, yeah. Russ is popping out the Wrathmongers.
This is where the pain comes from.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's getting out all the old gauge.
And yeah, if we have a look at where Russ has popped the Wrathmongers, we just pause it there. You can see he had the combat gauge out, and he's made sure they're 3 inches just from the front line of the Blood Warriors.
That's a really good tactic, that is. It's to make sure that only the Blood Warriors get the benefit from their extra attacks given from the Wrathmongers. But also, if the Blood Warriors are wiped out, then the Wrathmongers can counterpile in.
Yeah, I mean, have they got a 2-inch reach, the Wrathmongers?
Yeah, Wrathmongers themselves got a 2-inch reach, so they should all be able to pile in and cause some hurting on anything that goes in.
That's a horribly defensive deployment there. Well done, Russ. And then we'll just finish up with a couple of characters, Whippy Dude, and obviously Double Blood Secretum.
I love the double Blood Secretor. Now back in the General's Handbook, getting back those extra attacks again is very tasty for the Bloodbound.
Yeah, if you're not aware, the Blood Secretor's abilities do actually stack, so +2 attack if you get caught by both of them. Let's just take a nice little picture there. And then I think we're ready to roll into round 1.
Yeah, sounds good, man. Let's see how this goes.
So guys, I'm going to go through what I've actually got in my list and sort of like the reasons, well, not so much the reasons I've taken it, but the sort of like the way it interplays. So I'll start at the top, which hopefully you'll have a little shot of what I've got on my list around here somewhere or something like that. So I've started with the Celestin Prime. The reason being is that I think it causes a massive threat to whatever you play with the way he drops down in sort of like any of the battle rounds. You can stand off of him and use him as a gun platform, or you can drop him, it's sort of like turn 3 or turn 4, and he can be a beat stick and he can clear stuff off objectives and also deal with any of the big sort of like bloodbound units that Russ is going to have on the table. I think Russ is probably going to try and goad me into dropping him early so that he can not be as effective on the table, but we'll see how that goes. I'm also taking the Skyborn Slayer formation, which I've had reasonable success with playing for the last year. The reason I like the Skyborn Slayer formation is that it sort of like ticks your battle line units, because you've got 2 units of Liberators, 2 units of Adjudicators, which is 1 more obviously than you need for battle line. It also gives you 2 units of Paladins, Decimators, which against Russ's list are not going to be as good as they could be, because Russ hasn't got multiples of sort of like small bodies, because obviously Decimators are really good at killing units that are all bunched together, but he's still got big units, so I'm hoping that they can dish out quite a lot of attacks. Protectors as well, they're in the list because obviously the Skyborn Slayers, but they can also pump out quite a lot of attacks. With Russ having quite a lot of models on the table which are multi-wound, I'm hoping that the amount of attacks I'm putting out are going to cause him some damage. Also, my general, which is the Lord Celestin, forms part of that formation. I've given him a couple of the new command traits, one command trait and one of the new sort of like the items from the General's Handbook. So I've given him the Reckless command trait ability. The reason I've done that is because when he drops with the formation, it allows everything within 10 inches of him to re-roll runs or charges. Now, with the entire formation being about 5 inches away from Russ's army, there is the odd chance that I may not roll that 5 on the 2 dice for the charge. Getting that re-roll allows me to sort of push the advantage if I don't make the roll to get in. I've given the Relic Blade for his item. The reason being as well is that on the charge, the Celestin puts out quite a lot of attacks, but he hasn't got that much damage output because he's only got sort of 1 damage weapon. The Relic Blade gives him like essentially damage 2 on one of his melee weapons, so I'll probably use the sword for that because it's the extra attacks. I've also included 2 Fulminators. The reason they're in the list is because they cause quite a lot of damage on the charge. They've got the shooting attack to dish out mortal wounds. If they go in on the charge and they get a few wounds through, the damage for 3 is going to be really good and hopefully churn through a few of Russell's models. I took a Gryph-hound because the 40 points is quite handy to have. It's in this objective, in the mission as well. It's models within 6 to score, so he's quite a fast moving unit. He can score and he can sort of like help me sort of tick up if I've got more units than Russ within 6 on the sort of like the objectives. I've took a Knight Venator. Reason being is the long range shoot and attack. Also, he can do quite a lot of damage if I get lucky with the Sky-Fated Arrow. And I've took a Lord Relictor, and he's in the list as well because he can use his mortal wounds, sort of call down lightning, and also buff my units by like replenishing wounds, because there's a lot of models in the Stormcast that are multi-wound, in fact all of them. So I can try and keep those models alive and functioning at the best of their ability. So yeah, that's the overview of what I've taken, and I don't know. See how I get on really. I deployed the way I deployed, generally speaking, because I wanted to make sure that the Adjudicators can get as much shots and bring them to bear as possible. I've got the Fulminators on the right flank. The reason being is that I'm hoping I can push them forwards quite early on and cause a lot of damage over there. In hindsight, looking at the way the table's deployed, with Russ's Wrathmongers there, I'm not really going to want them going in and fighting the Wrathmongers, because obviously when you fight a Wrathmonger, they hurt themselves afterwards. I wish I'd had more shooting to deal with them. Normally I've got a lot of shooting that I can bring to bear on the Wrathmongers, so that their like close combat attacks sort of like get mitigated. Also, slightly concerned about the Juggernauts that Russ has got. He's got quite a lot of wounds in that unit. They do pump out a lot of attacks, and they're really resilient. So looking at the list, I personally think that's the threat. Also, Russ has got 2 banners, which allows his units to be immune to battle shock and generate extra attacks. And also, I'm a little bit concerned about the is it the Blood Stoker with the whip? He can obviously make Russ's Blood Crushers or Skull Crushers get across the table really, really quickly with the buffs to the run and the sort of the charge.
So I'm taking my Bloodbound. I've decided that, with true to style in most scenarios, put enough men on the table that you have so many, you're just going to have more bodies on the table. So I've gone for massive units of Blood Warriors, and the reason I've gone for those is if Les does Alpha Strike me, to coin another phrase from another game, then they at least get to attack before I remove them, so I get to roll some dice. So that's part of the fun. I've taken some Wrathmongers. I've actually taken less than I normally would. I normally would take sort of 15 to 20 and the formation, but I'm trying out something a little bit different. With the command traits, I want to make sure that I've taken my Lord on Skullcrusher, and the reason I've taken him is because with the Allegiance ability, which is the unpredictable devastation, everything within range of a hero, basically on a roll of a 6, can add +1 to hit. So I figured he needs to be fast, he needs to be mobile. Also, he's got more wounds, so if Les is going to try and snipe my general to get rid of my benefit, he's going to be harder to knock out in one shot. And following that, with Chaos, I tend to think that you want to put everything on one character, because that's kind of chaotic and cool. So I've also put all my artifacts and command abilities on that one model. So with his command trait, I've gone with Dark Avenger, and that gives every unit within 10 +1 hit against order. So as I know I'm playing Stormcast, I thought I would take something that benefits me that all the way through. And also I've taken the gem that protects him, the Talisman of Chaos. So that basically gives him a 6-up save. But if it's against order, it's a 5-up save. So he's basically got almost like an old school ward save to try and keep him alive. It's a bit eggs in one basket. I don't normally run him, so I thought, well, I'll try it out and see how it goes. His command ability is also quite useful because it's a re-roll to wound on the charge, and a lot of my units, especially the Blood Warriors, aren't very good at wounding, but they're good at hitting, and all the abilities are plus to hit. So I figured that actually making it so I get re-rolls to wound means I'm going to be more consistent with my attacks and chaos roll a lot of attacks. In terms of my units, my main units, I've taken 10 Blood Warriors, 10 Blood Warriors, for what reasons I've already discussed. I've taken a little unit of 5 in there, like a backup unit. And I've also taken a unit of 6 Skull Crushers. And I've actually taken the glaives on the Crushers. And the glaives hit on a 4, not a 3, but they get rend 1. And the reason I've taken the glaives is because of all the ways to get +1 to hit, they'll be more consistent than hitting on 2s. Once you get down to 1s, there's no benefit. So, and rend is something that I find the Chaos struggle with. I've taken Valkyria for that reason. She's quick, she's got rend, she's small, she's got good save. She's basically like a mini Bloodthirster, so I really like her, and she's 120 points, so really cheap in my opinion. It's 6 under the old South Coast system. I think that's a bargain. I've also maxed my heroes. I've got 2 Bloodsecrator banners, and that's purely for redundancy. They also stack, so if they're both down, that's +2 attacks, so which is pretty good. But also, Les has got a lot of ways to kill them at range, and having 2 just means that if I lose one on turn 1, I'm still not losing my immune to battle shock, which is really important, and my attacks. 1 Blood Stoker, and that's, again, to get a unit across the table. I've got a lot of infantry. It makes them run faster, makes them charge more reliably. He's really good. I would have taken more, but I just ran out of hero slots, to be honest. And I've taken one Slaughter Priest, which maybe is not a great choice, but I want to use one because I think maybe in the game it will be a good trick to pull someone off an objective. Because you score at the end of your turn, I could probably pull him off an objective, and then I could run onto it with something, and then I could score, and then it's a problem for him. He then has to get me off, so that objective to score in his turn. So we'll see how it goes. I'm not thinking he's going to be brilliant, but it's another target that he has to think about. It's another model he wants to shoot at with his Venator. I just think saturate the board with targets. He can't kill all of it, and some of it's going to survive. In terms of deployment, I spread my army across the deployment zone. The reason I've done that is because we don't know where the objectives are going to be. I've anchored one flank with the Crushers, which I think Les will think that's the power in the army, but actually it isn't. And I've put Valkyria on that side as well as a way to tease him over that side, which is where I want him to drop. And I've also put my Wrathmongers on the other side, so he won't want to go there either. And the idea is that he drops down on one side, he's well away from the objectives, and then if one of those objectives lands on that side, that's good for him, but there's a good chance there won't be any on that side. So he's now miles away, not near the objectives, and he's got quite a small amount of units in his deployment zone. So hopefully he'll fall for that, but as he's probably listening, he probably won't. And then I've got Skull Reapers, because to protect my general, who I've kept quite far back, but within range for his ability to affect basically the majority of my army. So that's it really. So we'll see what happens, and maybe Les will drop on turn one, or maybe you'll wait. I don't know, but I kind of think with the Stormcast drop, you can sit in a ball and then give all your points in one place that you can drop and kill it all, or you can just spread out, and he's got to make a choice of where he goes. So I thought I'd try the spread out, see how it goes in practice. So there you go, and hopefully I can win the game, but we'll see how it goes. To be honest, like the shooting is a problem. I'm actually a bit worried about the Fulminators killing a unit in one shot, because actually I'd rather he had less combat power, to be perfectly honest with you, because my army, although it fights, it doesn't fight particularly well. It grinds, and anything that can wipe me out before I get to attack isn't really brilliant. Basically, the biggest thing, the prime's a worry, because you don't have to be on the table to score. So he can drop down, clear a unit off, score. If he does that towards the end of the game, that they're worth more points the longer the game goes on, and the prime gets better the longer the game goes on. So it's an issue. Also, I don't like the mortal wound stick from him. And because I don't have range, and I don't have any way to really kill him, other than if he gets into combat, then I'm going to struggle. So it is what it is. I took an army which is, just run across the table and melee, on kind of on purpose, to see how it played and see how I got on.